Thank you, Bill. A federal judge rejecting an emergency request by Governor Gavin Newsom to limit President Trump's National Guard deployment to L.A. The court set a hearing for tomorrow. The governor saying he is not backing down.
California will keep fighting. We'll keep fighting on behalf of our people, all of our people, including in the courts. We sought an emergency court order to stop the use of the American military to engage in law enforcement activities across Los Angeles. If some of us could be snatched off the streets without a warrant, based only on suspicion or skin color, then none of us are safe.
Let's bring in Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley ahead of this hearing tomorrow. Jonathan, which way do you think this thing's going to go? For now, you know, the president has been vindicated. Is it going to change or is it going to stay the same?
Well, Jillian, I think the important thing to remember is that the president's going to win at the end of the day because he has the authority and the resources to flood the zone with federal officers. He can do it in a number of ways, including the National Guard. He can even use the Insurrection Act, which is many of these California Democrats seem to be pushing him towards, which I don't understand. There seems to be a perfectly valid reason for calming the streets and getting security. You have a sheriff who said he was overwhelmed. You have National Guard that have been called out in other areas of the United States to make sure that these riots do not get out of control. Now, at issue with what's called Title 10 is that it starts with a statement that the president has full authority to do this. And then it says the governor shall issue that order. And what the Trump administration is arguing is, look, that's a mandatory requirement. We can federalize the National Guard and you are to cooperate. Newsom is saying, no, we both have to sign off on it. The court's going to have to decide. But this is going to happen. I mean, Trump has made very clear, President Trump has made very clear that he is going to stabilize the situation and flood the zone.
I think, Jonathan, it also matters. There's a legal distinction in terms of what these troops, what these boots on the ground are being deployed in order to do, right? Because right now you have people saying that the legal basis for sending in the National Guard and even the Marines that are going to be there imminently is to protect federal property, right? But then you have people muddying on the waters on both sides who are talking about how these people are being deployed to, quote unquote, put out the protests or quell the protests.
Yeah, that's simply not true, that they are being used to guard largely two buildings. But also the rhetoric here, of course, is getting out of control. You had a Democratic member, I believe yesterday, who said, look, ICE has to simply retreat or these types of riots will continue. Well, that's not going to happen. It's not exactly a useful argument to say you have to stop enforcing federal immigration and then the riots will stop. It doesn't work that way. The federal government has a right to enforce federal immigration laws. They're going to do that. And the question is, will local officials cooperate, and also whether the governor will cooperate, to try to stabilize this situation? But it's a non-starter for Democratic members to say retreat or else.
Do you think that the governor's lawsuit right now is sincere? Meaning, do you think he has any guidance from his advisors that he could prevail, or is it more of a political showdown, a show of strength, countering the president?
Well, in fairness to Newsom, there is an argument to be made here. It depends how you read Title 10. But, you know, there's a lot of confusion about what happened before that. President Trump just supplied records that he did in fact call Newsom. Newsom made it very clear on air that he was not going to approve the use of the National Guard. The federal government has a separate responsibility. They're not just pedestrians. They don't have to just stand there and watch as another riot occurs in Los Angeles. And this is hardly the first time that has happened. And so the question is when you act. And we saw in Minnesota with Governor Walz that he waited too long to issue the order for the National Guard to go out there. He waited until massive damages had occurred and many people were injured. So this court's going to have a tough decision to make going forward. No court likes to be in this position. But generally, the President of the United States has this authority. And more importantly, he most certainly can bring federal resources into that city.
All right, we will look to tomorrow to see the next steps in all this. Jonathan Turley, thank you.
Thank you, Joy.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.